It's been a few months since the first wave of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass released, and the second wave can't be very far away from being revealed. In a previous video, I talked about 6 tracks that I think are really likely to show up in the DLC, but this time around I'm doing a list of my 10 most wanted tracks for the Booster Course Pass. Now before we begin, there are 2 other tracks I want to quickly talk about as honorable mentions. First, there's the track that placed 11th on my list, that being Vancouver Velocity from Mario Kart Tour. It's considered by many to be the best tour track based on a real-life location because of its really fun layout that makes use of a giant rope bridge and a hockey rink. The other track I'm giving an honorable mention to actually placed 18th on my list, and it's Sunset Wilds from Super Circuit. Even in Tour's version, there's a lot of twists and turns to really keep you on your toes and a really cool sunset in the background as the race progresses. The reason why I'm giving this track an honorable mention is because there aren't any other Game Boy tracks on my list, so I wanted to throw a bone to Super Circuit fans. This is probably also a good time to mention that there aren't any SNES tracks on my list either, because I just could not think of one I really wanted all that much. So with all that out of the way, it's time to finally start the list proper.
Turtles, reveal yourself!
I cannot think of a single person that doesn't enjoy Koopa Cape from Mario Kart Wii. I mean, what's not to love? The rushing water throughout this track turns every lap into a huge adrenaline rush. Not unlike Coconut Mall, this track has seen some controversial changes over the years, most notably the pipe section at the end being flooded and having the spinning electrical hazards removed. But honestly, I've always had a good time on this track, regardless of what version it is. This one would have definitely gotten higher on my list if I wasn't currently just a bit burnt out from playing it so much in Mario Kart Tour, where it was recently added as a new track. However, its appearance in Tour also bodes extremely well for it showing up in the Booster Course Pass later on, so in spite of my Koopa Cape fatigue, I can't help but find myself eagerly waiting to ride those rapids yet again.
If you smell what the rock is cooking.
Rock Mountain is a track that a lot of people like because of that breathtaking moment when you go off the giant ramp and glide into the forest for well over 10 seconds of airtime. And I like it for the exact same reason. But I also really like the cave you go through, as well as the climb back up the mountain when you have to dodge all those falling boulders. And this one's also an absolute shoo-in for the Booster Course Pass, considering one of the cups is literally named the Rock Cup. And according to data mines, that same cup will probably end on a track from Mario Kart 7. In the first wave, we got Toad Circuit, which fits the theme of the Golden Dash Cup, as well as Tokyo Blur and Ninja Hideaway, which fit the theme of the Lucky Cat Cup. It just feels way too perfect. Of course, there's always the chance that Rock Mountain somehow wouldn't make it in, but personally, I'm glad this track's chances are as rock steady as they are.
A bunch of baby ducks, send them to the moon. Soda machine that doesn't work, send them to the moon.
What is there even left for me to praise about Rainbow Road 7 that I haven't said in a previous video? It's far and away my favorite Rainbow Road, and I'm really glad it's in Tour and data mines for the 8 Deluxe DLC, because this track goes incredibly hard. Also, I'm really interested to see how they go about remixing this track's theme, because the original song was already pitch perfect in terms of fitting the course. But yeah, reliving this galaxy-spanning adventure on the big screen's bound to be an absolute blast.
Mist, ich muss mich verwandeln.
As the only GameCube track that's currently in Tour and not in 8 Deluxe, few tracks feel like more of a safe bet than Dino Jungle, and I couldn't be happier. Some people are a bit upset with how this track looks in Tour because the jungle is a lot less dense than it is in Double Dash and 7, and I think that's a reasonable thing to dislike. After all, the track is called Dino Jungle, and not Dino mildly vegetated location. However, I personally prefer the track's new look. I think it looks a lot more prehistoric than the old version. And the fact that the volcano in the background is more visible only sells that even more. But no matter which version of the track you're playing on, there are so many enjoyable track elements here. like the water geysers, twisting bridges, and of course the absolute legend, Noshi lending his feet and head as track hazards. What an icon. I'm told that this track's likely to not be going extinct anytime soon. So, you know how so far I've pretty much spent the entire list saying, oh boy, I sure am glad that one of my favorite tracks is very likely getting into the DLC. Well, Toad's Factory is unfortunately not one of those super likely tracks. I really like this course, but it just doesn't seem to have a lot going for it probability-wise. It's not data mined in 8 Deluxe, it's not in Tour, and it's not even data mined for Tour. I mean, maybe it'll still get in anyways, and it's just not in Tour's code yet for whatever reason. I mean, it is a fan favorite after all. But I digress. This track slaps regardless of how unlikely it seems to be. Every turn seems to bring an exciting new obstacle for the racers to find a way around, all while never feeling too complex for its Mushroom Cup placement. Here's hoping Nintendo subverts our expectations and makes including this track a step in their assembly line for creating the Booster Course Pass.
The leaves have changed into a variety of colors such as red, orange, yellow, and brown.
Even among other tracks from Mario Kart Wii, Maple Treeway always stood out as a crowd favorite, and it isn't very hard to see why. This course has a unique theme, a fun layout, and a beautiful soundtrack to accompany this absolute tour de force of one of the most aesthetically pleasing seasons. Oh, and it's totally getting in too, if its presence in Tour and the banner found in 8 Deluxe's code are anything to go off of. This is definitely a track that I can't wait to fall in love with all over again. These puns are so stupid!
I'm going to get to the bottom of this if it takes me the rest of...
Sand and more sand. So much sand you really wouldn't believe it.
I feel like Calamari Desert is a really divisive track, with people either thinking it's one of the most boring courses in the series' history, or a standout hit of Mario Kart 64. Given its placement on this list, you can guess my stance on it. For me, this is really one of those tracks where less is more. Calamari Desert always felt like you're driving in an actual desert, more than some of the more modern desert tracks in the series. Nothing against tracks like Dry Dry Ruins and Bone Dry Dunes, I just have a soft spot for Calamari's realism. The long straightaways really give you a chance to focus on your opponents and strategic item play more than most other tracks. If you get a green shell snipe on Calamari Desert, it's not because it bounced off a million walls and you just got lucky. No, you earned that snipe. There's also the iconic train hazard, which is one of my favorite hazards in the entire series with how abrupt and in your face it can be. All in all, this track blends its aesthetic and gameplay perfectly, and that is why it will always be one of my favorites. And hey, since it showed up in Tour, there's little reason to believe this track will be deserting us anytime soon.
Captain, hold your Joy-Con sideways and press a button.
Now presenting the most underrated track in the series, barring none, I give you DS Figure 8 Circuit? Wario Shipyard is an undiscovered gem of a Mario Kart track. There's so much to love, like the swinging anchor hazards, branching paths, and the overall zany direction of this course, which winds all throughout the ruins of a dock filled with Wario-themed ships. The spooky atmosphere and gaudy branding everywhere makes it feel really reminiscent of a haunted ship ride at an amusement park, and it really nails that feeling even further with the frequent boost ramps that pop you back out of the water at every turn. I think a big reason why this one's so forgotten is because in its original cup placement in Mario Kart 7, it's stuck between Piranha Plant Slide and Neo Bowser City, two tracks that are also on the dark and gritty side. This track never really got a chance to stand out from the others, but hopefully this will be remedied with the new DLC. Honestly, I think it's a 50-50 shot though. because aside from Rock Mountain and Rainbow Road 7, it's really hard to predict which Mario Kart 7 tracks they're going to pick, especially considering they led with Toad Circuit. But I'd love nothing more than to see this track finally get its dues by setting sail for the Booster Course Pass.
That will be your ball!
I think you all knew that this track was going to show up somewhere on this list, and it was more just a question of where than if. There will never be a cooler idea for a Mario Kart track than Waluigi Pinball. The plunger chute at the start, the crazy turns in the middle, and of course those infamous bumpers at the end make for one of the most memorable tracks in this series. It looks really good in Tour as well. I've seen a few people toss around the idea that this track won't make the cut because no two tracks in 8 Deluxe share the same music, and DS's Wario Stadium is already in the game and originally shared its theme with Waluigi Pinball. However, every track in the Booster Course Pass has gotten a completely new remix for its 8 Deluxe appearance, even Sky Garden, which got a completely different remix for its debut in Tour just a few weeks prior to Wave 1. Considering this, it tracks that Nintendo isn't sparing any expense when it comes to the music of the DLC courses, so it's entirely believable that they'd be able to come up with another new remix for one of the most beloved tracks in all of Mario Kart. But I really can't wait to plunge back into this zany thrill ride of a course. However, as much as I adore Waluigi Pinball, there's still one track I want to see get added even more.
Some people think they can outsmart me. Maybe. I've yet to meet one that can outsmart Bullet.
When I was a kid, one of my very first games was Mario Kart DS. And whenever I played that game, there were 3 tracks I always found myself coming back to and playing endlessly because of the sheer amount of fun I had on them. The first track was Tick Tock Clock, a course that I still really enjoy to this day in 8 Deluxe. The second track was Waluigi Pinball, which I just finished talking about. But the third track is the one that I consider to be the most underrated of the 3, and it's none other than the magnificent Airship Fortress. I always thought it was funny how Waluigi Pinball was always billed up as being one of the greatest tracks of all time, and it really is a phenomenal track. But then you have Airship Fortress, which is also amazing, but gets praised so much less in comparison. This track has so many great hazards that it's really hard to believe they all exist simultaneously on the same course. You've got the bullet bills, rocky wrenches, item crates, and burners. And then you have the actual layout of the track, which takes you onto the airship through its interior, out of a cannon into an abandoned fortress, and then past a narrow chasm to start the lap over again. There just isn't a dull moment. As much as I love the original DS version, Tour makes it even more interesting by making the airship design more in line with the mainline games and adding in a parlor section full of Shy Guys right before the burner room. This is without a doubt the track I want to come back the most. Not letting it get in the Booster Course Pass would be criminal, and I'm so glad I don't have to worry too much about that, considering it's one of only a handful of DS tracks to appear in Tour. I'm not even going to do an ending pun for Airship Fortress, it's just that good. If you enjoyed this ranking video and want to see more Booster Course Pass videos in the future, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so I know you enjoyed it. And leave a comment telling me what your most wanted tracks for the DLC are. I can't wait to see what Nintendo will actually end up picking for Wave 2. But until then, I'm Triple S, and have a nice day.